What if I told you that you could have money waiting for you right now that you've forgotten about, or like me, had no idea was yours? It doesn't involve buying a lottery ticket or an alternative investment. It's your own money held by federal and state agencies across the United States until you claim it. In this podcast, I'll explain why I was surprised to receive a check for nearly $3,000 in unclaimed property. You'll learn what unclaimed property is, how to start a free treasure hunt for amounts belonging to you, and tips to avoid potential scams. Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 946 of Money Girl. I really appreciate you downloading the show. I'm Laura Adams, an award-winning author, on-camera spokesperson, money speaker, and founder of The Money Stack. That's my Substack newsletter. And I want to invite you to my next live event that's happening soon. Please register for my Smart Investing Masterclass, How to Make Money and Achieve Financial Freedom While You Sleep. This is a great class. You're going to get an hour of instruction and up to 30 minutes of live Q&A. Everyone who registers will get the video replay, even if you can't attend the live event. This has been a really popular class, so I'm going to be doing it again, and I want you to register now by clicking the link in the show description or by signing up for the Money Stack newsletter when you visit lauradadams.com. The welcome email will include registration options, and I can't wait to see you there and take your questions either ahead of time or live in the next masterclass. All right, so let's talk about unclaimed cash and property. Unclaimed money or property is just something of value that a person or company owes you, but couldn't get it to you for some reason. It's kind of like the lost and found for your personal finances. And according to the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators, 1 in 7 people has cash or property just waiting to be claimed. So that is a lot of you listening. That adds up to billions of unclaimed assets that are held by state governments and federal governments and treasury departments in the United States. Unclaimed property generally refers to funds or financial accounts considered abandoned. They maybe have been, there's been no activity in the account or contact with the owner for at least a year. However, the dormancy period can be longer, up to 5 years. And then after this dormancy period, the property becomes officially unclaimed. And through a process known as escheatment, an institution is required by law to report and turn over that property to the state's unclaimed property division. So, it just doesn't automatically become theirs. They've got to turn it over to the state. Then the state will attempt to contact you about claiming what is yours. It's going to keep unclaimed property indefinitely with no statute of limitations for owners to claim it. Some common types of unclaimed property include uncashed paychecks. It's not uncommon for somebody to leave a company and then be owed something like, vacation time that they didn't take. And that money maybe was sent, but the person moved. There are all kinds of reasons why people don't get final payments, but that's pretty common. Also, checking or savings accounts that, are just abandoned, certificates of deposit, stocks or bonds, safe deposit box contents, uncashed dividends, trust distributions, refunds, like deposits on old utility accounts, overpayments, this is what happened to me, unredeemed money orders, unredeemed gift certificates in some states, annuity payments, and insurance payments like life insurance benefits. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of reasons why you may have unclaimed property. In many cases, missing funds are due to a change in address or a name. Maybe you get married and change your name, and the institution holding the funds simply lost track of you. Even if you relocate and request forwarding to your new address, the Postal Service only offers that service for up to 12 months. So you can see if somebody finds some, funds years later, it could be very difficult to track you down. So let's talk about how you claim funds. Well, in some cases, you may know that you're owed funds that you never got. For instance, maybe your security deposit from your old apartment might be in limbo because you forgot to update the management with your new address. And maybe it's been a couple years and you just can't reach them. So I'll explain how to search for your property in just a moment. But in my case, I had no idea that I was owed money until I received a notice from the state of Florida. I live in Florida. My husband opened the letter, which I'm really grateful for because I tend to be suspicious of anything that looks like it's trying to look official and usually throw it away. Now, the state sent a very brief one-page letter explaining that I had unclaimed funds and needed to visit Florida's Department of Unclaimed Property at fltreasurehunt.gov. So fltreasurehunt.gov is the Florida site to submit a claim. It was pretty vague and it didn't mention an amount or any specifics about the source of the funds. So, I'm still a little suspicious. But using the Florida website to submit my claim was relatively easy. It showed, once I finally got in there and found it, it showed the amount of my unclaimed cash, which is just under $3,000, and the institution it came from, which was a mortgage processor. And I recognized that it was a mortgage processor used on one of our rental properties. So there must have been an overpayment on a rental property that my husband and I sold way back in 2018. And I have no idea why the mortgage processor or closing agent didn't contact us right away about the balance. We did relocate shortly after the sale, and perhaps they did try to reach us but couldn't. I'm pretty good about sending forwarding, so, it does surprise me that they weren't able to find me. But, sometimes people don't try very hard. Anyway, claiming the funds online was entirely free, but it did require me to verify my identity by uploading a copy of my driver's license and a document proving property ownership. And you can do that by submitting like a copy of a tax return with that address or a utility bill, which is what I did. And the system indicated that it could take up to 3 months for my claim to be processed, but it was actually approved within about a week. And then about 2 weeks later, the check from the state of Florida arrived in my mailbox. However, each state has its own rules and procedures for handling unclaimed property. So, if you live in a different state, the process could be very different. But hopefully it is just as smooth as what I experienced for Florida. Now, let's talk about how to search for unclaimed property. As I mentioned, I'm really thankful that the state contacted me about the funds, but I have no idea how much sooner I could have gotten them. If I had gone on a treasure hunt, maybe I could have found that money years ago. If you're like me and have lived in multiple states, I recommend starting your unclaimed property search using a national database, such as missingmoney.com. That's the official unclaimed property website of the National Association of State Treasurers, and it is free to use. It allows you to search the official databases of most states simultaneously. Another great place to start your treasure hunt is Unclaimed.org, which is run by the National Association of Unclaimed Property Administrators. It features a map of the United States, allowing you to click on a state to visit its official unclaimed property website. So you kind of drill down where you want to go. I would consider searching every state where you've ever lived or worked, or even where you have any deceased relatives. I'm going to make it an annual routine to check one of those sites for funds belonging to me and any close relatives, such as parents and grandparents, even if they're deceased. As I mentioned, life insurance proceeds are a common unclaimed property. You could be the rightful heir to a life policy or other types of unclaimed assets and not even know it. Certain federal agencies also hold unclaimed funds that you may want to check depending on your situation. If you have undelivered tax refunds, you want to visit irs.gov and search for "Where's my refund?" If you have an old savings bond that's matured, check with the United States Treasury at treasurydirect.gov. If you've worked for a company that went out of business and you're owed a pension, you want to contact the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation at pbgc.gov. If you're owed back wages for any reason, check with the United States Department of Labor's Workers Owed Wages database. And I'll have a link to that in the notes for the show. If you're a veteran missing any unclaimed funds or an insurance refund, contact the Department of Veterans Affairs at va.gov. If you had an FHA mortgage, you want to use the HUD database to see if you're owed an insurance refund. If you have funds with a failed bank or a failed credit union, you can check the FDIC database at fdic.gov. If you've been through a bankruptcy, you want to check the United States Courts Unclaimed Funds in Bankruptcy database at uscourts.gov. And if you have any different categories of unclaimed property, check out the United States Treasury's Reports of Unclaimed Money database. Again, I'll have links to all of these in the notes for the show. As I mentioned, I was a little suspicious when I got this notification from the state, and as you can imagine, unclaimed cash likely attracts scammers. So I'm going to cover some warning signs to watch out for. One is when someone tells you that they'll collect your unclaimed funds for an upfront fee. As I mentioned, searching for and claiming your money from an official government or state website is free. No need to pay anybody. Therefore, if you get an email or a phone call saying, hey, you've got all this money, but you need to pay me first, or even if they call it a wire fee or a tax or a processing charge or anything else to try to get you to pay money for this service, hang up the phone or delete the email because they're just trying to take advantage of you. Even if someone is a legitimate asset locator who would charge a percentage of a claim as their fee, it's a service that you don't need to pay for. Again, if you've got an internet connection, the process is easy and it didn't take me very long at all to complete. Scammers often attempt to create a sense of urgency, like claiming, if you don't act now, your money will be turned over to the government, or, trying to tell you that you have a deadline. Unclaimed money is already with the state or federal government, and that's a good thing. So don't believe anyone who tries to rush you when it comes to any type of financial decision or transaction, large or small. Also, be cautious of someone posing as an official government agency via phone or email. As I mentioned, I received an official one-page letter from the state referring me to an official .gov website to make a secure online claim. The government will never call you. They will never email you. They are only going to work through the U.S. Postal Service. So never give anyone your Social Security number or bank account information when they unexpectedly reach out to you. Again, you want to check out free sites like missingmoney.com or unclaimed.org and see what you might find for yourself or close relatives. Depending on the funds you're owed, they could be held in different places. So check various agencies depending on where you might have money. Again, you can go back to that list of different places that I went through. And if you find some treasure, let me know. That's all for now. I'll talk to you soon. Until then, here's to living a richer life. Money Girl is a quick and dirty tips podcast, and we've got a great team that I want to thank. Steve Rickyberg audio engineers the podcast. Holly Hutchins is our director of podcast. Morgan Christensen is our advertising operations specialist. And Nathaniel Hoops is our marketing contractor.